First thing we're going to start with is the Diddy trial because there's a lot happening in the Diddy trial. So if y'all don't know, Diddy is Diddy had requested a mistrial. So sorry. Good morning for those of you who just got here. Let's lock in. Welcome back to Morning Coffee. Let's start with the Diddy trial. Diddy's team is accusing the prosecutors of trying to get rid of a black juror. So Diddy requested a mistrial. And he says he wants a mistrial if the judge goes through with the dismissal of the juror, which by now you all probably have seen the news that the juror did get dismissed, but we'll talk about that in a second. The rapper's legal team filed a letter to Judge Subramanian, can't ever say his name, Sunday evening, claiming that while the court might believe the prosecution's question about the juror's inconsistent answers during voir dire are sincere, the government is finding pretense to dismiss the juror because of their race. So that's what Diddy's team is alleging. He's saying that basically they want to get rid of him because he's a black male, and they allege that the jury team or the pool of jurors is not diverse, which the judge got very mad and said that it is very diverse. I think only 4 of the jurors are white and the other people are all non-white. So Diddy's team says that by putting the dismissal attempt in the context of the overarching proceedings, it's easy to see that they're trying to take advantage of the opportunity to strike yet another black male from the jury. The jurors' inconsistent answers about their residency during voir dire, Diddy's team says, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not fit to serve on a jury, and they cite Judge Subramanian's own words from Friday when he said that the subject matter was being addressed and is so far afield from the juror's performance. However, Diddy's team adds the judge changed his mind by the afternoon, signaling the intent to dismiss the juror without further inquiry. And Diddy's side feels there's no justification for it. So essentially what they're saying is that the juror lied about his residency. So I guess he said he lived in the Bronx with his baby mama and his kid. And then they found out that he doesn't actually live in the Bronx. He lives in Jersey. And they're saying, well, why did he lie? And so they're saying, like, why would he lie about that? And then the defense team is saying they just want to get rid of him because he's black. But I will also add to that from what other people are saying, this juror is probably going to be beneficial to Diddy because I guess some of the things that he mentioned was that he loved 90s music and he's from the Bronx. And so they felt like he would have some sort of connection to Diddy, which would help Diddy to get off, I guess, to not get guilty. So the defense team feels like if they get rid of him, that's putting Diddy in a precarious situation because none of the other jurors have the same matching identity or profile. So the judge decided to dismiss the juror, and I don't think he's giving a mistrial, but Diddy's federal jury in NYC is bringing an alternate because a juror has just been dismissed by the judge after hearing more than 3 weeks of testimony. Judge Subramanian dismissed juror number 6 Monday morning after hearing arguments from prosecution and defense regarding the juror's life. While the jury was out of the room Friday, the judge explained he went back to the voir dire portion of the trial and found that this juror said at different times that he lives in the Bronx and at other times in Jersey. The judge added that the court has alternate jurors for a reason, and there's no point on keeping this one around with so many question marks attached. The alternate juror replacing number 6 is a 57-year-old Westchester County resident. Friday, Diddy's attorney, Xavier, whatever his name is, stood up and said that the court was taking a big step backward by getting rid of a juror of color and asking the judge to bring him back into the court. And then, so I also think that, there's something to be said about the fact that Diddy's originally from Mount Vernon, which for those of you who are not from New York City, that's right outside of the Bronx, right outside the city. It's in Westchester County. And this juror was not being consistent with his answers. And then knowing who Diddy is, like, I do think that brings into question whether or not he has access to this juror and if the juror was going to be consistent or inconsistent. And I think the prosecution's point is that up to this point have been creating a really strong case, but they don't feel like, they feel like at this point that man, if he has any connection to Diddy, or if there's anything questionable about him, he could be the one person to hang the entire jury and then they're done. So I think getting rid of him made the most sense. And also, I don't understand why you needed to lie about where you resided. If you resided in Jersey, you should have said you resided in Jersey. You probably wouldn't have been able to sit in on the case, but what are you lying for? And I think any cause of suspicion means that a juror needs to go. So bye, and the trial will continue. And so there's that. Now, I also don't know if you all know this, but Kanye West showed up to the trial recently. I think it was Friday, and he made an appearance and left after 10 minutes. He wanted to go in the courtroom. They wouldn't allow him in the courtroom because they thought it would cause too much commotion. They wanted to let him in the overflow room, but that also caused too much commotion. So they put him in his separate overflow room. And people are saying that his whole time there was about 10 to 15 minutes long, and then he bounced. He then got up out of there and he made his appearance. Now, people are saying that the connection, or the reason that he showed up, was because the day before, if you recall, the Jane Doe was still on the stand. Jane Doe is one of Diddy's exes. And she alleged that she told a story about going to a freak off. And it was a really well-known rapper who Diddy's really close with, is what she said. Now, she gave away some details that made people assume, and I think at this point we can confirm that it was Kanye West that she was talking about, because she specifically talked about the well-known rapper's wife's birthday being around the time that the freak off happened. And then they found out that his ex-wife's birthday is in January, which is when the alleged freak off happened. And if you recall, that's why her and Jane Doe and Diddy got into that physical altercation, because Diddy said to her, "I can't believe you went to another man's freak off." And the other man is what we believe to be Kanye West. So that was I believe his appearance in court was to intimidate Jane Doe to some extent, or to support Kanye. People are saying that he showed up to show support for Kanye. I don't think Kanye showing up to court is going to do anyone any good. Kanye West does not have a good track record. I don't think that they thought that Kanye West showing up would do any good. I personally believe that there was some sort of intimidation that he was trying to get at Jane Doe about. And I think that's the reason that he left. I think he left because he couldn't get in the courtroom. I think he wanted Jane Doe to see his face, and Jane Doe, he couldn't get inside the courtroom. He was in an overflow room where you have to watch it on the screen. And so it's my personal opinion that that's why he made his appearance and walked up out of there, because, he couldn't do what he got there to do, which was, one, show people that he's standing behind Diddy, and two, I think he wanted Jane Doe to see his face. That's my personal opinion. I think that's why he left, but there's that. So Diddy trial continues. I'm not sure who's taking the stand this week. They really don't announce it until last minute, but they're going to continue. And as it continues, obviously I'll keep you all updated, but no mistrial, juror dismissed, new juror introduced. And I think that's probably also going to slow down today's trial. So we probably won't hear as much, but apparently there's some messages that shows the hotel planning and all the other stuff that were just released. There's that. Now, I also want to talk about 50 Cent. 50 Cent was trolling. Let me say this. 50 Cent's son was trolling him first. His son was trolling him first. 50 Cent trolled back. 50 Cent's son did a bet saying, how much you want to bet that 50 Cent is gonna post pictures of his son, blah, 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 blah. And that dads do things for photo ops on Father's Day. And 50 Cent responded with, I'll read what he responded with, but I'll tell y'all my opinion. 50 Cent says, "You little punk, your mama got you and your sister scamming. Them people came to ask some questions about it. I said I don't F with them. I'm a law-abiding citizen." So my take on this whole 50 Cent blasting his son and his son going back and forth with him, even if your son started the beef, I just feel like as a parent, it's inappropriate for you to be having these public altercations with your son, especially when you made it very clear you don't take care of him and you don't mess with him, which I also think is weird. And I do think that as the parent, you should be doing your due diligence to try to mend a relationship with your child. It's not your child. So yes, your child is trolling you, but it's because you've made zero attempt to mend your relationship with your child. And it goes back to what I always say. Because y'all got beef with the mamas, y'all make beef with the kids. So because you beefing with the mama, you want to make beef with the kid. And it's like, that's your seed, if anything. And it doesn't matter if your child is grown or not. It is your job to make it work with your kid. And trying is not enough. Go to therapy, figure it out. Also, you can't be mean to somebody's mama and think that they're going to bang with you. I'm sorry. Like, it doesn't matter if it's your child. That's the mother of your kid. You can't be mean to somebody's mama and think that they're going to be like, oh, it's cool. It's cool. Like, me and you, we're good. We're valid. And I just think that that's weird. So I could understand why 50 Cent's son don't mess with him, especially because especially because he's raised by his mama. He spent most of his time with his mama. So like 50 Cent is not the you know what I'm saying, is not the only 50 Cent is not the main parent. So if you want beef with somebody's mama, their kid is going to be with you, especially when their parent is their sole parent. And so I think that, yes, it's wrong. His son shouldn't have trolled him, but like father, like son, 50 Cent is literally the troll of all trolls. Also, I typically enjoy 50 Cent's trolling, but I think in this current situation where there's so much more layers to this, especially given the Diddy trial, and that there may be some connection, I just think that 50 Cent really needs to just be quiet at this moment, because you're putting a lot of people in harm's way, and I think you don't understand that you're playing with fire. So I think you just need to, you know what I'm saying, play it cool. And again, these are your children. So your relationship with your child is more important than whatever beef you got going on with their mama. So there's that. But I thought that was interesting. I don't know what his plan is to make it better. I don't know. Whatever. The next thing we need to talk about is the fact that the 69 God is crashing out. So for those of you who don't know, Kendrick Lamar made history this past week with his GNX tour in Toronto, which is Drake's hometown. Now, the reason he made history is because he was the first rapper, Kendrick Lamar, to sell out multiple shows at that stadium in Toronto. First ever rapper to make history. Now, obviously, that pissed Drake off. And so Drake was mad that a Canadian politician went to the Kendrick Lamar show. And he called the Canadian politician